Hello, and welcome to Talk BGKY Podcast, the official podcast for the City of Bowling Green. I am City Clerk Ashley Jackson. Here today with me are Assistant City Clerk Hope Spiller.
Hi.
And Records Management Coordinator Jen Edwards.
Hi.
We are going to provide some insight on the roles and responsibilities of the City Clerk's office. I would like today to just kind of go over what is the City Clerk's office. The City of Bowling Green City Clerk's office, we are the official custodian of records. So we're responsible for all the preparation, production, publications, codifications, preservation of all of our vital and historic records for the city. And so we maintain all of those, and we are going to go over a lot of details and explain a little bit more about our roles. But most people think, okay, well, if you're not the circuit court clerk and the county court clerk, well, who are you? Interesting note, city clerks, they are required by state statute. Fun, I know. But an interesting note, too, is that the city clerks were once elected positions in some cities. But right now in the Commonwealth, there are no other elected city clerks. And honestly, thank goodness for that, because I am not sure I would be in this position if I had to run for office. So, all right, Hope, our assistant city clerk. How long have you been with the city? And tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Hope Spiller. I've been with the city since December of 2018, so a little over 6 years now. A little bit about my role, I basically assist the city clerk with all job duties and responsibilities of the office of city clerk, which can include the preparation and follow-up of all Board of Commissioners meetings. The Board of Commissioners meet on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 4:30. We work closely with staff.
Okay, and Hope, tell us a little bit. So you help prepare municipal orders and ordinances, really important things that are on our agenda for the Board of Commissioners. Tell us a little bit about that and how long it takes to prepare those.
Sure. Municipal orders we write for basically day-to-day operations of the city. Appointments, promotions, purchasing, agreements that we do with other agencies or private entities and people, ordinances or anything that changes the code of ordinances. So we maintain the code of ordinances for the city, updating those regularly, working with staff.
And electronic agenda packets. Wow, we've moved a long way. Since I started over 18 years ago, wow, we were only doing paper copies. We've really moved forward with electronic agenda packets. That is something that is really nice. It also helps us too a little bit on moving things along faster.
Yes, saves us so much time. We work on those municipal orders, drafting those. It's kind of a timeline of our day-to-day operations would. You know, if we're preparing for the first meeting of the month, we're working ahead of time the week before. Staff will be working with us to get those items for the agenda for the next week's meeting. We're drafting the municipal orders, and then on that Wednesday prior to the Tuesday meeting, we have an agenda review meeting with the city manager. He meets with us, with staff who has items on the agenda, and we review those. And then on Thursday, we will get the agenda out to the board. Thursdays can be kind of chaotic when we, sometimes we'll have an agenda that's 10 items, or sometimes we'll have an agenda that's 30 items. It just kind of depends on what's going on.
Yeah, Jen sees us in our fury sometimes of, oh my goodness, are we ever going to get this done? And here we are at the very end of the day at 4 p.m. and we're still finalizing the packet. Like that, we've been working on it for weeks already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't really envy you guys on Thursdays at all.
We usually have to stop for a Spencer's run at some point during the day.
we definitely run off of that as I sit here with my latte right now.
Shameless Spencer's plug.
Thursdays are kind of chaotic. We're getting the agenda out. Friday morning, it goes out to the public. We'll post it online. You can always find our agendas that Friday before the meeting on our website. And then Monday.
And then you turn around and you have follow-up. So after the Tuesday Board of Commissioners meeting, Wednesday morning, you're doing all of this follow-up. So you're scanning in things into our document management system that were just approved, things that staff can go back and find. Also, just remember, all of our Board of Commissioner meetings are open to the public. So please, if you ever want to attend one of those, you are always welcome to do that. The agenda is out there, but that is a constant preparation follow up, and as soon as we are doing the follow up after that Tuesday meeting, we are turning around and preparing for another meeting. It is constant. We also, I feel like, wish our lives away to some degree because we are planning months and months in advance for agendas, and we do that in order to be efficient and effective.
Yep.
And the board has always enjoyed the way we do things. We keep it very organized. We have deadlines. We have strict deadlines. Sometimes our staff come to us at the last hour and say, hey, can you please add this? I know it's past the deadline, and typically we can accommodate that, but sometimes it's not always doable. Thank you so much, Hope, for going over all of that. And then Jen, so tell us, how long have you been with the city? And little tidbit, we all know that you started with the police department, but luckily now you are a part of the city clerk's office. So tell us a little bit about your history.
Seems like I've been here since the beginning of time, but apparently that's only been 20 years. So I started at the police department in 2004 as a dispatcher, and I was a dispatcher for 4 years, and then I was a dispatch supervisor for 3 years, and then I moved into the police department records division. I was a records supervisor, and from there, a position was created over at City Hall for a records management coordinator, and I went for that, and I was hired as the records management coordinator in 2017. So
First one ever.
yes, the position was created in 2017, so I've been in that role ever since.
Yeah, and so at that point when Jen started in the clerk's office, I was serving as the assistant city clerk, and we were so grateful to have her in that position because we'd never had anything like that before. We had a records retention facility, which was housing all of our records, and then having someone on staff that was taking care of all of that organization as well as the preservation portion of things. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about the preservation and what you do and take care of.
Well, really, it was when I first got in, it was a big undertaking for organizing everything and going through and deciding what really needed to be kept and what could be destroyed. And really, I had to go by the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives, their schedule. They're the ones who determine. We can't decide based on what we want to keep. We have to go by their schedule. They have schedules ranging from just a couple of years to eternity. Anything that needs to be preserved forever, we're supposed to keep a hard copy, and we also do digital copies as well, so that way we have both versions. Now, if it's not a permanent schedule, then we can scan things in and make a digital copy, and that way we can save up some room. When I first started, it was actually just basically this big open area that I was given and all of these records to kind of maintain. So it was kind of neat that I got to design my own area and design all the shelving and my own office. What's kind of cool that's happened in the past few years, though, is that we realized basically we had estimated and thought that we were going to have boxes and boxes and boxes for years to come, and we were going to be filling up that space at some point. But instead, since the world is moving so much more into the digital age,
Right, yeah.
we were not filling that space up, and so it was kind of neat. We were able to take down a lot of that shelving, and
Thank goodness.
I know, because what ended up happening was I ended up having two of my favorite people in the world, my coworkers, come on over into my area with me, and we created some office space. And
Yeah, so a little bit about that. So the city clerk's office, as long as I can remember, have been a part of the city manager's department. So just recently, actually September 1st of 2024, the city clerk's office moved out of City Hall and over to the annex building with our legal department. We are in the Department of Law, and it was so amazing that we were able to reorganize that whole area in which she was in by herself, mind you, since she started in that position. And we were able to join together and not be apart from one another in a different building, a different area. And so we stayed in the same department and communicated wonderfully because we're so close, but it wasn't the same. So now Hope and I and Jen are all together in one place, and so I'm so fortunate for that. so also very grateful that we are digitizing. Because if we were to have had all of those boxes and all of the paper items that were still being stored, we would not have room.
Oh, no. And yeah, it would have been filled up pretty quickly. And I'll tell you, 7 years by yourself got lonely pretty quickly. And I finally got to pack up my Wilson volleyball from Castaway, my company, my only company that I had over there for 7 years. So
We all had to.
very
We
nice.
had to adjust. We had to adjust being a little bit closer in our environment, but we got to make it our own, and it's been a very good process, and us being together and still doing cross training, lots of that still go on. Hope still has to fill in for me and my absence, and then anytime that Jen is out, I mean, she has to take a vacation from time to time, not looking at records all the time. And so when that happens, then Hope fills in for open records requests, which we'll get into here in a little while too. It's always something that is continuous, and our job duties and responsibilities are all pretty important because everything we do is required by state statute or policies and procedures that are internal. Those are really important. This is very big, critical positions within the city. We're not more important than anyone else, but we do have some very, very important roles where we have to make sure we're following state statute. So going into also Hope, let's talk a little bit about boards, commissions, and committees. So, that is something that we deal with as far as record keeping purposes, but also the mayor. The mayor has to appoint city residents to various boards, commissions, and committees. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the city clerk's office works closely with the mayor on his recommendations for boards and commissions and committees. He will a lot of times, meet people out in the community who are interested in serving on a board. And so a lot of times we will have citizens, residents reach out to us with interest. We have all of our boards and committees and commissions listed online on our website, as well as a link for people to send us information about themselves and letting us know what they're interested in serving on. And
Yeah, we definitely need those.
yes.
I mean, there are so many residents in the city that don't realize they can become more involved by being on a board or a committee or commission.
And we have over 20 boards that citizens can serve on. The requirements that we have, they just need to send us a resume or a bio about themselves, and also a requirement to be a city resident. You have to
Yes.
live within the city limits of Bowling Green to be a city appointee.
Right.
And a lot of boards we have are joint with Warren County. So,
Yes.
if you don't fit the requirements to be a city resident, you can potentially serve on the Warren County side of those
Right.
boards.
And then also the record keeping. So, Hope, you keep a list of when their terms expire. So that's a constant thing that you have to make sure that you are following it closely and following up with the mayor and working closely with him.
Yes.
And so that is something too, as part of our record keeping and being the official custodian of record.
Yes.
Sounds so official. I love that. That is something you have to be
Yes.
mindful of, and you are constantly, a lot
Yes.
like the municipal orders and ordinances and agendas, and always preparing.
Yeah.
There is something that you are always being mindful of and watching for our upcoming expirations.
Yes. And those terms, they're constantly rolling. We'll have some upcoming this summer that will expire, fall. It's ongoing every year.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so Hope and I both serve as secretary for various boards and committees. Throwing out some, we've got the Bowling Green Audit Committee, the Board of Ethics, our Job Development Incentive Program Committee.
And we just recently created the A Better BGKY Board of Directors.
Our nonprofit that we just recently created. Also, Police and Firefighter Retirement Fund Board.
Yes.
So we serve as secretary for those, which also means we have to prepare the agenda and the packet. And then we have to prepare those minutes, which are permanent records and become a part of the official record for years to come, so that people know what we were doing, what is our history behind these boards and committees. So it's a lot, guys. It's a lot of record keeping, a lot of information that we have to keep that is required, again, by Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. It's so important that we follow all of the rules and regulations, again, that are required by state statute.
Yeah, going back to the record keeping, Jen, I think a lot of people find it interesting, some of the retention schedules on things.
I think one of the wildest ones is just, I guess, the broad categorization, especially like police felonies. I always find that one to be strange, because the mildest you say of like police felony is like a theft of over $5,000 is this same retention schedule as like a robbery first. So they both have to be kept for 80 years.
Yeah,
So
wow.
I just find that kind of wild that in the eyes of the retention schedule that they both have to be kept for 80 years, that they're both kind of equivalent to me.
Yeah,
That's
and when I
just
do training,
wild.
it's the other one that gets people are the personnel files.
Yes, yeah, the personnel files. There are some things that are only kept for 5 years after somebody leaves a
Right.
job, and then there are other things that have to be kept for a personnel file for 60 years after somebody's
goodness,
start date. So
And then you have that responsibility on behalf of the city to manage that. So you are making sure that you are following the retention schedule.
Yep.
And you will go back. We jokingly say often, we won't be here to see it, people during
Right.
our era while we're here right now, especially the newer ones, new
Yep.
hires. We won't be here to see that destruction because we will well be retired, Jen.
I don't know. I like my job. Maybe I will be here to see it.
To roll y'all out.
I try to be
Yeah.
pretty healthy.
Or-
and
yeah, we're
you
gonna-
never know. Maybe I'll be here in 60 years.
I thought we were retiring at that 27 mark together, but
To come back for the
Not-
Over 50 Academy and come see Hope.
Yeah, not together. You both can't retire together. That would be chaos.
yeah. So let's, Jen, I'm going to put you back on the spot again. So
Okay.
talk to us
I'm
about
ready.
open records, because open records is also one of the most important things that the city does. Again, lots of state statute requirements that
Oh, yeah.
follow open records. So tell us a little bit about the requests that maybe you get on a regular basis and how you handle open records on a daily basis.
We get a lot of requests for fire reports, and we get requests for different things like code compliance. People want to know about any sort of violations, things like that. I also have to deal with mainly we do have different record keepers throughout the city that can process their own requests, but anything that needs to be combined with the departments, that comes to me. So anytime somebody wants to get a certificate of occupancy, but they also want to know how many times a building has been inspected by the fire department, anything like that, where there has to be coordination amongst the departments, that all needs to come through me. So I have to bring everything together in order to collect all the information and send it out to the one person. Anything that has to do with maybe collecting things for HR, if people want personnel files, which it's not very fun, but I have to gather that information to give out as well.
Right, which has become more digital.
Yes,
So
yes, that's a
it's
little bit
not
easier.
going and pulling that paper
Right.
copy. So that helps out a lot. Also, yes, there's a large variety. Police handles their own.
Yes, yes.
So they're their own official custodian.
Police they actually have a very big job of it, because they have to deal with the redaction of body cams and
Right.
the cruiser video footage and
Right,
stuff.
which
as
I know
well.
sometimes you help with some of that to help them from time to time. You have a background in police, but also as our official custodian, as our person who handles open records, you are the one who also knows all of the exemptions and things like that. So there are redactions that are in place. Obviously, those redactions include what? Let's give an example here to the listeners. If you're looking at a document, say it is someone's personnel file, since you brought that up, what are the types of things that you have to go through and be very meticulous, all that attention to detail? I mean, the clerk's office, the attention to detail and accuracy is one of the most important pieces of our jobs in all aspects of everything we do. Tell us the types of things that are redacted. Per statute, there is an exemption that allows for personal information, for example.
Right. Personal information is redacted, social security numbers and phone numbers, birth dates, addresses,
Right.
things like that. Also, HIPAA information, anything that would be health related.
Correct.
Actually, we don't release any of the evaluations. Those
Correct.
are private.
Right. There have been some exceptions, I know. Also another piece to this is that we work very closely with our city attorney.
Right.
She also has to look up, sometimes there's legal opinions out there that tell us otherwise. There may be something that's a little bit of a gray area per state statute. So there's that constant.
Right.
We sometimes, if it is not black and white, and we cannot verify that it is as simple as a date of birth or a social security number, we reach out. Our city attorney is always providing us with legal advice and input on what we should do. So tell us a little bit about those open records requests that make you go, oh no, oh my gosh, how am I going to, number one, get this done? What's the timeline? You've got a strict timeline per state statute.
The statute says that we have 5 business days to respond to an open records request. So basically that means if this is going to be a request that is going to take an extreme amount of time, we have 5 business days to be able to respond to the person to tell them if it's going to take longer.
Right.
So most of the time, if it's going to be a simple request, the response within 5 business days may just be the response with the information that they're seeking. Or it could be the response within 5 business days saying this is a request that is going to take an excessive amount of time, so
Right.
this is going to take 2 weeks. Or it could take 3 months. We expect to have it done by this date.
Right.
Kind of thing. I know that at the police department, this was back in when I was working there, and I know at this point it's gotten even worse just because of all the footage that they have to redact, because it was kind of in its infancy when I was I was leaving.
Especially the body cam.
Right.
Yeah,
the body cam stuff was just kind of coming out and being requested when I was leaving. Back then, as I was leaving, there was a request that it was, I believe, 7 murder cases that they wanted every single piece
Yep.
of
I remember
evidence
that.
and photos and all of the interviews, and that one took almost a year to complete, and that one was one of the wildest ones too. And I'll give an example of how intricate that one was. Within one of those, or within that one, there was actually an interview that was being conducted with a juvenile. And so when we were talking about all the redactions that needed
Yes.
to be, juvenile information is redacted.
Right.
And juvenile names.
There's an exemption for that.
Yes, there's an exemption. Juvenile names have to be redacted. We had a detective who has since retired that was absolutely amazing, and especially did a fantastic job with children. And he did a great job with building rapport. And okay, so we're going to pretend like this juvenile's name was Ashley.
Okay.
So what he would do in the interview, he was interviewing this juvenile, and he would say, "So Ashley, were you Ashley out at the scene, Ashley, with your friend Ashley, and were you by the car,
my
Ashley, with
goodness.
it?" And every time he
You
said
had
the
to do
word,
that
every time he
redaction.
said the name Ashley, we had to redact Ashley out every time. So it was
wow.
it was wild. And so the girl that I had working with me, her name was Casey. We had to go back and forth at least 20 times watching to pick out all the
Yeah.
Ashleys, because we would miss an Ashley every once in a while.
Okay, so that brings up another great point. Double checking.
Yes.
So all 3 of us, we are double, triple checking things. I've got Jen who is still, reaching out and going, okay, Ashley, give this a good look. Okay. Or Hope, give this a good look.
Yes.
Hope's preparing municipal orders and ordinances, and I'm reviewing them, and then she's going to go back and probably review it again. We've got a lot of eyes that are on our work, and then not counting that you, the public, you are looking at our work. This is going to become a part of history that people way, way farther out are going to be looking at for years to come. So all that being said, that's why it is so critical and important that the information that we put out, whether it's open records, whether it is our minutes or our agendas or municipal orders and ordinances, they need to be as perfect as they can. But let's be honest, I know we're not perfect.
We try, though.
We try. We try really hard. We strive for perfection. But I know that's impossible. That is impossible. But we do strive for it. But
Well, going into the our old records, when I was scanning in the really old municipal orders and ordinances and resolutions, it was pretty obvious they didn't have any form of spell check back then.
100%.
So yeah, those records exist for all time now, and
Yes.
so it is kind of important, so that someday when people are looking back on all the records that we created, 80 years from now, that
It is super fun for us to see some
Yes.
old records,
It
right?
is.
It is.
So we've got old maps. We've got things that were a typewriter was used. There were no computers. That was impossible. Handwritten things that aren't even legible, guys. We can't even read it. Oh, and what about microfilm? Microfiche.
I don't even want to talk about it.
I mean, we still have a reader. Okay,
Yes.
we still have a reader. It is a very modern reader. It is not the
As
old.
modern as you can be, yes.
But we today, great example, we were able to destroy some old microfilm and microfiche. We had a company come in and take those away. There's a process, guys, we have to go through. That has to be sent off. Then we have to fill out destruction certificates, which goes to Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives, which is absolutely seems crazy and ridiculous, but there has to be a record kept for everything we dispose of. But again, you could not dispose of that until the retention schedule told you could do that. So that was another portion to all of that. There's so many things that are required, and we have to make sure we follow each and every one of them very closely. Hope, certificate of burials for Fairview Cemetery. People don't even know that the city clerk's office handles these types of things. When we say we do something with Fairview Cemetery, they're like, what? Yeah. What could you possibly do?
I know you were just talking about the records, really old records. That's one of the things that we have some pretty neat records on, dating back to like the late 1800s. We have records of Fairview Cemetery burials and handwritten.
They're handwritten. They're like receipts.
Yeah.
There's no certificate of burial.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, people call them deeds still, but they're not really a deed because you don't really own it. The city owns it. You have a right for burial.
We do work closely with the staff at Fairview Cemetery. They do such a great job working with residents who come in and needing burials and certificates. It starts at Fairview Cemetery. They will take all the information, make payment there, and then it gets kind of sent to the clerk's office. We do the back end work of recording those burials.
Oh, in a ledger book.
In a ledger book, yes.
A handwritten ledger book, guys.
Yeah.
You should see it. They're what is the size? So is it like
8.5 by 14 maybe?
Yeah.
Binders that for every plot of land out there we have.
And any changes made, we mark it out, we white it out. Somebody may transfer to someone else.
Right. Yeah.
All of that record keeping Hope does, and thank God it's her handwriting and not mine anymore, because when I did it, you couldn't hardly read it. It was not legible.
Yes, we will record it in the deed book, and then our software system that we use will create the certificate of burial, and then that gets sent to the purchaser from the clerk's office. So there's, people can release those if they decide, maybe their family wants to be buried somewhere else. They can release their plot of land back to the city.
Yeah.
So there's a state statute that you can release it back to the city, but it is for the amount you paid.
Correct.
So our parks department, they will regularly change the price of burial plots. So, if you bought a plot in 1985, you will get what you paid for in 1985 back.
Same thing with transfers. You're not supposed to actually get more than what you paid for it. Again, that is a requirement per state statute. So that's very important. But that record keeping, most of all, is important because a lot of times cemetery calls you and says, hey, can you check your records? Can you make sure that ours match? Because they keep their own ledger book. So we have two different ledger books. So ways of keeping those records, and it's pretty amazing, guys. The dates going back, like Hope said, those receipts, they're old, they're frail, but we keep them in our conditioned space, safe space, right? It has its own, our records retention area, our offices have their own special fire system.
Yeah. Yeah, and lack of privacy for it. We can't even have walls that go all the way up, so that way the fire system can get through
100%.
to it. So, because we can't have any sprinklers or anything
Yeah.
because otherwise that would damage and destroy all of our records.
Yeah, we get to hear each other's conversations all day on the phone. It doesn't matter. Yeah, we're all together. So.
Or we think we're talking to each other when when we are on the phone. And
100%.
And Ashley and Hope have to hear me saying, "Huh? What?" all day long.
Or I'm the loud one. I've had to learn to kind of tone it down a little and not be so loud on my conversations on the phone. But so also I want to tell a little bit about organizations that the clerk's office is a part of. Those are really important organizations for us because it's a way for us to network with other city clerks, other cities that do similar things as we do. So we're a part of the Barren River Municipal Clerks Association. Hope is treasurer for that. Very important position. I'm not sure that she'll ever lose that position because it's one of the most important, but not
The most
sought.
desirable? Yeah.
Undesirable for the rest of the group. And then I'm past secretary and president for that regional association. And that does consist of our Barren River region. So clerks from around the region. Also, we're part of the Kentucky Municipal Clerks Association, which I am very fortunate and grateful to be serving as the current president for that. Also, the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. We also are members of that. And there is continual importance of continuing our education because, as we've discussed, all of these job duties and responsibilities that many people don't even realize we do, we have to continue to get the education and have that open communication. Also hear from our Kentucky League of Cities, people that are giving us information of new legislative statutes that have been amended. We need to know about those things. We need to be up to date on them for when Jen's doing those open records requests or we are preparing ordinances and municipal orders and things. So we're grateful to be a part of those. And let's be honest, Bowling Green is a model. They contact us all the time. Whether it's for examples of something we have already prepared, ordinance, municipal order, something like that, or we have been an example for presentations that are related to how we handled open records. So I am grateful for that we have been a model for others for years to come. So,
And Ashley, going a little bit about keeping up with legislative issues, that's one of the main things you do as well in your role is maintaining what's going on. And
yeah, so this past legislative session, it was actually a very active session, even though it was a short session. So myself and City Attorney Hillary Hightower work closely together. We submit that information out to the board, to staff. There were a lot of things within the legislative session this year that could have been very impactful to the city. And so we stayed in tune with what was going on. Actually, this session, Hope and I got to go up to Frankfort and sit in the House for a little bit because there was a special interest on a bill that would affect cities related to publications. And so we really wanted to be a part of that. So we were grateful for being able to be there on behalf of the Kentucky Municipal Clerks Association. So that was a great experience, but we have to keep up with those things because, too, we may need to advocate, and the clerk's office and legal department does that. And so, that's another big piece that people don't know about. Again, a lot of our things we do they're somewhat hidden. They're behind the scenes.
behind the scenes for sure.
And no one sees that. Yes, you may see a certificate of burial with a name on it from the clerk's office. You may see a letter that comes from the clerk's office that is a response to an open records request. But again, you don't really see all the behind the scenes. Yes, you see me and hear my voice if you are listening or attending a Board of Commissioners meeting. Most of the time, otherwise, you don't see me. Again, going back to where I started in the very beginning. People don't know who the city clerk is, who the city clerk's office is. They know the circuit court clerk, they know the county court clerk, but those are both elected positions.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not out there on a billboard somewhere. Again, I'm grateful.
Would you want to be? Right.
Thank you all for being here. I think this was fun. This was great. We did have a lot of serious talk, but we are also a lot of fun. We do keep it energized in our office because we couldn't have fun otherwise.
So Jen, you've been with the city for almost 20 years, over 20 years?
Yeah. It was 20 years in April, and I know Ashley's been for well over
I'm going
18,
on almost 19.
so almost 19. So about 45 years of experience with amongst all of us.
So you will have
Total, yeah.
more experience here than I've been alive.
Wow.
basically.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Hope.
Yeah, that was rude.
That is
That was-
also the going thing. Hope being the youngest amongst the three of us
Thanks. Yep.
makes it easy for us to pick on her a little bit, but
But going with that, 45 years of experience, that's amazing. I think it's quite impressive, and just diligence with your positions is very admirable, and I think the city is lucky to have you.
You too.
Thanks. Absolutely. I love this team and so grateful to be a part of it, and it would not be possible without both of you. The city clerk's office loves working for the city and its residents. That's what we're here
Absolutely.
for. I hope that today everyone has enjoyed getting to know a lot about the city clerk's office and maybe even learn something new. And it's been a pleasure, and thank you for listening to Talk BGKY Podcast.